Hello, my name is Lucas, and for our second graphics project, we got to pick a 3D scene from our game of choice, to which then I decided to recreate something similar to the style of the game called Firewatch. I really like the warm feeling of the evening colors when you start off the game, and basically my scene will try to recreate the feeling that the Firewatch game gave me. Hope you enjoy, and let's get into it. And so to try and recreate the evening aesthetic of the Firewatch game, I needed to get a few things somewhat correct, or as close as I could to the game. First thing was the fogginess of the game. The game has some thick fog when you start off the game. It just creates this aesthetic that I really liked, which made me choose the evening or this part of the game. The fog is also affected by the sun because of the evening has really bright orange color to it, which means that the fog itself represents the color of the sun, which makes the fog orange. So to create that type of aesthetic, I would need to get the fogginess correct, and then to create that type of aesthetic, make sure that the sun has close to the same color as the fog to come close to the aesthetic of the evening scene of the Firewatch game. To make the scene more interesting, it was important to also add some implementations, which the Firewatch game has, right? So one of the first implementations was trying to add a compass into the game. And to implement the compass, I had to create a marker in a distant area of the map, which then we would have to calculate where to point the compass pointer depending on where the player is looking relative to the location of the north marker. How we would do that is let's say this is our north marker and our red is the player. First we would get the rotation from the player towards the north marker, and then let's say our player is looking this way. We would then have to subtract this rotation right here. So let's say our marker, from our player to the north marker, the rotation is 40 degrees, and then from where our player is looking is 70. What we then would have to do is take our player rotation, which is 70. We then minus the rotation from the player to the north marker. This is 30. And then basically from our 70, we would then have to rotate the pointer of the compass. We would have to rotate it 30 degrees this way, which then would make the pointer rotation equal to our player to north marker rotation. And this is how we would make our compass pointer always point to the north from where our player is standing. So the next implementation that I wanted to recreate but also add on to a little bit was the item pickup mechanic. In the Firewatch game, you are able to pick up an item and then throw it down, but the throw down is always the same. So what I wanted to do and what I did was let you be able to charge your throw. So this just makes you able to throw the item further if you wanted to, and just gives the player a little bit more interaction with the item that they pick up, which could also result in the player having more fun with their with the objects within the surroundings. All we have to do to implement this, find out how long the player has been holding a button for. So let's say left mouse button, and then once they let go, we get the amount of time the player has been holding the mouse button down for. And then when we calculate the velocity, we just use that number to add on to the velocity or to multiply it, and this should let us charge the throw to be able to throw the item a bit further depending on how long you hold down the mouse button. For the next implementation, I wanted to recreate a simple open and close interaction between a player and a door or other type of object like like the chest in the Firewatch game. Well, I recreated I made a door which the player can open and close. It is a lot more simple than the chest open and close mechanic, as Firewatch has a code you have to put in to open the door, the chest. But to recreate a door or to create a door open and close, let's say system, all we would have to do is see if the player is close to the door, and if they are, then give them a prompt to which they see a message telling them they can open a door by pressing a specific button, to which, let's say the button is E, and then if the player presses E, we just rotate the door from the Z axis, which would have to be at the corner of the door to be able to make it act as hinges instead of it rotating from the middle of the door. And this is just a simple way we can make a open and close door system. And lastly, I'm recreating like a carry system or mechanic, which is inside of the Firewatch game, but instead of a map, well, we have where the player carries a compass as well as a torch instead of a map. The system or mechanic is quite easy. We just have the compass as well as the torch attached to the character's hand at all time, but then we disable the visibility of our object, and then once we need the object, for let's say we click a certain button, an animation plays, and then we activate that object, and it will look like the player pulled out a compass or a torch out of their inventory, but realistically they always had it in their hand, which I think is just a simple way of creating a functional but simple carry system. And as a bonus, I also created a water distort once the player gets under the water. Then we apply a post-processing material which we can distort our vision by textures on our screen, making it seem like the water is distorting our vision, but realistically it's just a filter. And then also for the torch, I created scorch marks as well, and it basically works by if the player is close to a wall, a ray is shot from the fire or the top of the torch straight where the player is looking, and the ray hits a certain object like a wall or anything that's in front and gets picked up by the hit raycast. Then we just spawn a decal that eases in, represents a scorch mark, and then eases out once we step away from the wall, just so the wall spawn decal doesn't lag our game too much if it's always there and new decals are being spawned, which wouldn't be ideal for performance. So that's about it, and let's move on to the implementation within Unreal Engine. And now just to quickly mention before taking you through all my implementations, I did create a Firewatch tower on myself using Blender. Although it's not perfect, as it is the first thing I ever created within Blender, I'm quite pleased how it came out. For the first thing that I did while creating this Firewatch inspired scene was add some water into the world. Although you cannot explore under the water inside the actual Firewatch game, I decided, instead of keeping the player from not being able to enter the water, I thought I'd just add some type of post-process volume. So once you enter the water, the scenery would change as you would be, as to look like you're underwater. Now for my next implementation inside the Firewatch inspired scene was the compass. As you have a compass within the Firewatch game itself, I decided it would be a great idea to replicate it. Although it might not look as realistic, it still works the same, as it follows a point within the map which just detects, or the pointer of the compass points towards the north area of the map. And for my next implementation, I added some item interaction. The Firewatch game has some as well, but one thing I did change was add some charging to the item being thrown. So if you want to throw the item beneath your feet, you can just do that by clicking the left mouse button, and then if you want to throw the item a bit further, you hold it down, and a UI element below your crosshair shows how much you charged your throw, and once it's fully charged, it cannot go up any higher, meaning that your throw is capped to a certain force, so you're not able to throw the item across the map. I think it makes it more realistic, as A regular person can't just throw a item across the world by charging their throw. And for my next implementation, I added a fire torch that the player can equip and unequip by using the 1 key. The torch just lights up the environment, and then if you get close to a wall or a mesh, let's say you get close to this beam of the fire watchtower, it adds a decal to signify it's being burnt. I also added the ability to light the unlit torches. If you just walk past it without a torch equipped, the torches will not be lit, but if you take your torch out and walk across or next to, they will light up and become lit torches. Although this is not inside the Firewatch game, I just wanted to add some kind of material interaction between the player and some type of mesh. And then lastly, for a last minute implementation, I just added some 2D landscape horizon mountains. The Firewatch game has some, I decided to add some as well, just to come a little bit closer to the Firewatch aesthetic I was going for. Now for the item pickup system, it's very simple. All we do is we check if there are any overlapping actors with the player. If there are, and they have a interface, which, let's say, because I have a can that I can pick up, if it has a can interface, then we move on to the pickup interface message. We then casted the BP can. Well, we send a item model to BP can or blueprint, can blueprint, and the item we picked up, we put it as a new mesh, and the equipped item is our target, so we put the new mesh into our equipped item, and that appears, and that item will appear in our equipped item, or the item will appear in our hand, and we just play a simple animation at the end. All these group of nodes do is get how long the player has held the mouse button, left half mouse button for, and then it is used within the item throwing system. And let's say if our player has been holding down the mouse button, then we start to we set our current throw strength, so it increases every tick, as we use the event tick node here. It increases until we hit the clamp, which max throw is 1000, and that strength is perfect for my item throwing system. All these nodes do is, if a player has released a item or has released the mouse button, then it spawns a new actor, which is the BP can actor because of our item, and then we add velocity to our item as well. So once the item is spawned, it will add that velocity to the item. And all we do then is just play an animation, and then we delete our item from the equipped item component, and that's about it. What we do for our compass rotation is first we get our the location for north, which is got by getting the north blueprint class actor, and then we get the location of that actor and then send it to our compass. We then get our compass and our pointer in that compass, which we want to point towards north. We get the north location, we get our player location, and then we get where our player is looking. We subtract them and then invert it, because if we didn't, then the pointer would be looking the other way. So we just invert it to make our pointer look in the right direction. And then we set the relative rotation of our pointer to point towards, or to rotate towards, the right direction, which we want it to be north. Our animations work is also really simple. I've created a montage for all the animations I want to play, so only the top half of our character is affected when we play the animation. What we do is just flip-flop between these nodes right here, and if we press Q, we play the montage, then unhide our compass, and if we want to put our compass away, we just click Q again. It will stop the animation montage, it will put the player's hand down and disable or hide the compass away. Same with the player torch. We click 1 to enable our torch montage animation. We then unhide our torch and set a boolean. Torch is taken out to later use in different blueprints. With the open door animation, we click E, we send out a array. We then, all we do here is just get the where the player is looking, judging by the camera of the which is attached to the player character. The line is sent towards where we're looking. If something is hit and the tag is door, then we cast to our door, which will then play a animation which opens that door, which I can quickly show, which is right here, our custom event, which plays, and then it just opens the door to up to 80 degrees, and then once we click the button again inside our third person, which is Z, it will then rotate back as our flip-flop goes into reverse and then rotates our door back 80 degrees.